Welcome to Top Shot NFT. I'm your host, Jason, as always, my big man, Lennox, coming from Chicago. I'm in LA, and today we got an awesome guest coming all the way from Australia. His name is Wades. You may know him from the Discord, and if you don't know what the Discord is, you're missing out on a huge part of Top Shot. Wades, welcome to the show. Just kind of give us an idea of just who this mystery man is. Sorry we couldn't get the video to work for you.
No, not at all. I don't think there's a bit of a mystery behind it. I am Wades. I'm a financial advisor by day. I enjoy the NFT community by night. How I got involved with the NBA Top Shot in particular was I can go back, guys, as long as you want me to. I can talk for days about this stuff. So how far do you want me to go back on the topic?
How about you start when what month did Top Shot officially kind of, in your opinion, like was not like the super early beta, but like when it started like having signs of what it is today?
That is a great question. I mean, honestly, like I'll take you back through a little bit of a timeline just to give you some perspective, guys, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
We got into what we call the alpha, which is about 70 odd members. That was roughly about early June 2020. We were there for about a month, and then we opened it up to a wave of maybe 20 to 30 people at a time, and that was what we called open beta. So that carried us through, well, maybe a couple of months into that, so maybe August, September, thereabouts. And then we sort of opened it up to more and more people, but we were still in closed beta at the time until, we got to that September period. I'm sort of recollecting here at 10 p.m. at night, so it might be a bit off. We went to open beta, which is what you guys see now. So in terms of when we had this, what I believed in the product from the beginning. You can go through my, Twitter and all that sort of stuff and Discord, and I was hot on this, topic of what's become now a very hot topic, NFTs and the NBA marriage and all that sort of stuff from the get-go. But when it really started to take off was really when, the sort of Tyler Herro became the ambassador, and he put out a couple of things, and also more importantly when Bales purchased that Ja Morant #1 Cosmic, and his crew sort of came in the back of that, which absolutely lit the product on fire. So I've said that before. Thank you, Bales.
So, Wade's a quick question for
yes.
all of us who came in a bit later, and it's amazing just a couple months later is considered later. How were pack releases in the early times? What was it like getting the rare packs? Was it still the rush of people? Were they available? How did that process work exactly?
So early on in alpha and beta, early closed beta, it was plenty. So the first pack we had from memory was the Cosmic pack.
Okay.
And mind you, there was about 70 of us in there, and some quite heavy spenders in this space, in the NFT space, and it still took about a week to sell out. So following on from that, really you could have got any pack you wanted, largely all the way up until sort of late in the year, December. We had a few packs here and there, like Legendary Finals, which sold out quite quickly. But honestly, you could have any pack as sort of as much as you really wanted to. I know some members that bought in the hundreds. So they're some of the larger accounts you see floating around now. So different time. I haven't been able to land much for about a 3 or 4 week period now. So yeah.
When I first got introduced to one of your YouTube videos, and it was actually one of the recent ones, and you were talking about like a lot of the buys and sells that you made.
Sure.
Like I remember, like I think you said you sold like a LaMelo for like $10 or $15 around there.
Yeah.
What was it like? Maybe around like when it was bubble time, and there's probably like less than 1,000 users on the marketplace, and like do you recall like a Cosmic selling for like $10 that now what is the bottom floor of a Cosmic, like 2,000 or 3,000?
Yeah. Again, look, before Bales and his band of merry men and women came about, you could have got a lot of stuff for under 1,000. So your bottom sort of tier players, we're trading probably for about $300 to $400 US. So quite inexpensive. And if you could see what my account valuation done, it's just ridiculous. It just sort of went up, and then just shot through the roof. And that's noticed similar to the entire market. I hold a lot of base moments and sort of middle tier type of stuff. It's not a lot of top tier stuff. That's on purpose as well. And so it's more of an index of the market, I'd say. So I've got a bit of a heat check that way as well, and it literally just went straight hockey stick straight up. So whether that's sustainable or not, I'm not too sure. But as we get more members in, I think that will soak up any of the excess supply we might have sitting around about now.
How many members do you think are currently like on right now? And like what did that hockey stick? Because so to give you a background on us, we bought our Lennox hits me up and like right in the beginning of the new year, and he tells me about NFTs in general, and that he's been like kind of buying this artwork that's digital, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like you can't even display it like over your mantle? Like why would anyone buy this stuff? And then he had some success in some things. And so I was like, all right, give me a call whenever there's something to buy and like we'll go in on it. And then he's like, he tells me about Top Shot, and we're basketball guys, both from North Carolina. And so that was something, it's like, yeah, okay, I can kind of get behind it. But of course, this was where we bought like a base set pack, and I believe that was still base set 1. And it was just like they were just sitting there, and I would spend $10 and get like a Cameron pane that was like $1, and just like, well, this is pointless. Let's wait for the big boys. And Deck the Hoops was the first big pack that we could get.
Yeah,
and that it's crazy. That was not a month ago, and it feels like that was just a totally different time. Like, can you explain like in the last, we'll say 3 weeks, like that's the hockey stick. And I believe that there's a new hockey stick on the horizon. But can you just kind of walk us through like really what are the numbers as far as like users and activity that have happened in like the 3 weeks?
Look, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I could pull some
ballpark,
Discord numbers out. I'd say before the craze happened, we probably would have been, I know we were talking in Discord with the Dapper team and so forth about getting to the 7,000 member mark, because once we get to that mark, it gives us the wider visibility in Discord. So where members can search, NBA, and will come up in the search engine. So I know that was a big deal for us. That was before the Bales purchase and the whole craze happened. Now, I'm hearing numbers of about 40,000. So whether that's multiple accounts or not, but it's hard to know that. But we're looking at 4 to 5 times more actually in a space of 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
So you would say there's like 40,000 accounts right now?
Well, I believe it was 40,000 Discord members. So I'm not too sure about the accounts. You could sort of, if you really wanted to, you could total it up by going to individual teams. If you guys log into your accounts, you could see, your number 76 out of 3,500. You could total it up that way if you really wanted to get some insight into growth, but it's a bit of work. Look, I could certainly pull those numbers from somewhere, but I don't have those numbers right now. It's probably anywhere between 4 to 6 times in space of 3 weeks.
Out of curiosity, can you speak to us about the NBA's appeal in Australia with the time zones and when the games are going on here? Like, how was it consumed? How was it watched? I'm an occasional DFS guy, and one of my favorite guys to listen to is Josh Lloyd from Basketball Monster, and I know he's definitely an Aussie. But just curious to get your take on NBA in Australia.
Yeah, I think Josh is actually in the Discord. So if you want to pop in when when you're finished, I can add you guys to there too.
Awesome.
Yeah. So in terms of how it's consumed, look, it's not the easiest thing. Jason and I were actually talking before you came on. I've been a Heat fan for 25 years, and I remember going back to the late 90s and ordering, Pontel DVDs. I used to pay about $1,000 a season, and I'd have to just not watch the box scores, the Sports Center for the 5 minutes it's on a day, just not to be able to see the, and I'd watch the games on 3-day delay. So whereas now it's all on demand. So in terms of how it's consumed, for me personally, I just watch it on delay when I come home late at night, just on through NBA TV or whatever it's called, the subscription. So look, it's readily available. NBA is massive in Australia. It's one of the biggest sports amongst the youth and adults alike. So it really, this will. I don't know how much NBA Top Shot's penetrated in this country, but I'd say, I know a few friends that play it, that I've introduced it to. But other than that, I haven't seen too much on Facebook groups and stuff like that. So, but basketball, NBA in Australia is very, very popular.
Is Andrew Bogut like the guy in Australia right now?
Who's that?
And Andrew Bogut's.
I'm kidding. Look, I mean, he's an Australian player, like
Right.
But was. He's retired. I believe he's retired now. No, look, we've got a reasonable league in here called the NBL. We've before, say, going back 3-4 years, the league was almost bankrupt. Gentlemen purchased the league and all the teams in the league. And I believe we've got a whole bunch of NBA players now as majority owners of some of those individual teams. So it's gone from strength to strength as well, which is great to see. So that's coming on quite nicely. So
I think that's kind of the global appeal. Like in America, there's a lot of times that Americans can kind of get delusional about like the global appeal. Like the NFL is by and large the most popular sport in America, but I think it's basketball globally is way more popular than baseball or American football. And I think that because of that, the NBA and Top Shot has a very high level of success potential where maybe the NFL and baseball could be lacking in that. Now, obviously, America, we've got 300 million people here. So in itself can have its own market. But the global appeal for basketball in general is really what's kind of impressive. How global is Top Shot?
How global? Oh, look, it's absolutely global. It's not just the NBA that's I believe attractive to the potential member, to the potential user, but it's almost like a financial instrument. I've been sort of preaching from wherever people want to hear me from in terms of this potential, and really is how often do we go, well, I wish I could buy a piece of Luca, or I can invest in a piece of this player's potential, like a stock or a share. And now you can. I believe that's what this represents. Traditionally you could buy a jersey or some piece of memorabilia, but try selling that. The amount of areas to entry and exits, and it's just incredible. eBay and grading companies, Top Shot breaks down all those barriers, borders, all that sort of stuff. It's decentralized to an extent. And you talk about blockchain. I mean, it's a perfect marriage in my opinion. So that's why I've been hiring it from day one.
Jason and I have theoretical conversations back and forth all the time. I'll have my strong opinions and he has his. And one thing that we discussed last night, in your opinion, what does an equitable release look like, right? So right now you have situations where we have tons of people trying to get packs. We recently had the email raffle lottery situation. On one hand, I'm pro, release it randomly. On another hand, I do think there's merit in having a raffle based system. What are your thoughts? What does an equitable release look like in your eyes?
That's such a great question. It's so hard to answer because you've got so many aspects to this game. You've got the time zones to consider, because if you release something into the wild unannounced, you're going to disappoint a lot of people. If you release it in certain time zones, you're going to disappoint the American fan base, or vice versa, the Europeans or Australian, whoever. So you've got to consider that. You've got to consider, minting supply side of things, because this is something that's verifiable. It's not like a Panini product where you can release whatever you want into the wild. No one's going to know how much there is. So you simply can't do that. You guys see, the team releases a bunch of packs and then people complain that either they didn't get it or it's too much supply. It affects the marketplace. So look, it's such a hard question to answer. What was the original question? I just talked myself out of answering it.
Just in your opinion, what's the best way to do pack releases? Now, I guess
to release. Yeah. Look, it's a combination of everything. I do quite like the lottery system because it avoids a bit of disappointment, because there's nothing worse than sitting there for 2 hours at a time and just clicking and doing these stupid things that to try and get a pack. So I do quite like the lottery. Whether that's the perfect answer, I don't think it is. It's a combination of, I think, quite a few things.
I mean, this might be a little bit more of a technical question, but
yeah,
you're familiar with like Nifty Gateway?
Yeah, I've been on it a couple of times. Yeah.
So their system seems, because they have like releases. Like last night we participated in one, and there was like a limit of 250, and their system just seems to be pretty seamless. And
okay.
Is it just a question of like what does NBA Top Shot need to kind of do? Is it solely because they kind of have a system built for what they think was like this gradual growth, and they just the floodgates opened and they're just so far behind on that?
I think it's a bit of that. Look, I can't speak for the team. I mentioned to you, Jason, I'm not an employee, so I don't know what really happens from the technical side of things. I know for a fact that this all took everyone by surprise, the hockey stick growth, and with that price appreciation, and with that obviously more growth, because everyone wants to, everyone's talking about making $1 million and $100,000, so that just brings in more and more people. So we're constantly playing this game of catch up in terms of that technical side of things, and the website and the mechanics behind the scenes being able to function under stress. I don't know for Nifty, what their user base is like. I mean, I would imagine it's a fraction of the NBA Top Shot side of things. Right. Simply because the NBA is a global brand, like you mentioned before. It's attracting everyone and every probably bot in the universe. Obviously, everyone's making 3x on the packs, so people are just looking to bot the daylights out of it and flip it as soon as possible. So we get a few requests now just to sell entire accounts to for the moderators to escrow transactions, and people just selling entire accounts. So that's where not usually, but potentially that they've just gone in and maybe there's been some untoward action and they're just trying to flip it on PayPal and so forth. So but I honestly don't know what Nifty's user base is like to be able to answer that question. I'd say it's honestly probably a very small fraction of NBA Top Shot.
Well, my technical expertise just knows, like, I click a button, it goes straight
to there.
Firm. And that's
there was a time, Jason. There was a time when we could do that.
Yeah. Instead of getting the processor, like when it says like gotta finish your previous order, it's like there is no order. I've got nothing.
I mean, the lottery now is first you got to actually get to the site, then you can click the button, then it goes to heading to Dapper. I mean, that's a celebration in itself these days. Then you got to be able to pay for it, and it's like just take the money. We want to give you the money, and then eventually you get a pack, and then you have to open the pack, and hopefully you get something decent in there. So. God bless them. We're trying.
There is that element of nostalgia, like we're our basketball fandom trajectory is very similar in the age that we kind of came in and became fans of the sport. Things. But I recall being like around 10 or 11. And that was when the Dream Team was coming out. Shaq's rookies were coming out. And I would literally, my lunch at school was $1.10, and my dad always gave me $2, and I would save that 90 cents each day. And God, I sound so old thinking about like 90 cents, but that would give me like $5, and I could go to Walmart and get like 10 packs of NBA hoops cards.
Yeah.
and you know, that enjoyment of opening it, and that's the exact same thing that I'm kind of experiencing. And to the credit of Top Shot, like there's a very nostalgic feeling. My first thought was like, man, this is just flooded with a bunch of young kids. And then it's like, you know what? It might be a lot more of us. than,
Oh no, look, yeah. Once you guys, especially in the Discord that I've sort of put together for us, it's a lot of high-end collectors, and try to do a good job of putting the OGs from the game along with brand new people in the space to try and bring them along, and it's a lot of there's a lot of capital in this space, and just talking to some people in the background, there's a lot of capital wanting to come in that's got deep pockets. So this is not kids necessarily. This is some serious people looking to invest into something that's going to change history to an extent. So that's my opinion. But it's interesting you make that point about the nostalgic feeling and the opening up packs. I mean, I went through the exact same thing you described. We used to go wash cars as 10, 12, 13-year-olds, and then go to the local equivalent to Walmart and buy packs of cards and a bit of food. So it certainly takes me back as well to those days, especially in Australia, because it's really hard to find boxes of cardboard cards in Australia unless you want to pay 3 times the recommended retail price by going to eBay. So which I don't. So it's been a nice little time for us for the last 6 months from that perspective.
Wade, you mentioned that you had a large section of base cards. Just curious as to, number one, in the current base cards we have, what are your favorites? What moments are your favorite here? And number two, what are you looking to get more of? What are you acquiring these days?
Yeah, so I'm a season 1 guy. I'm obviously very fortunate to have been here early and was able to pick up a lot of this stuff for just out of the pack or next to nothing. Having the thought that this is going to blow up completely, I just wanted to go as wide as possible in terms of just going to the base and just picking up everything I can. I'm quite big on leveraging, so essentially buying the dollar or undervalued moments and looking at that 20, 30, 50x rather than going and buying something for $5,000 and expecting a 4x return. That doesn't excite me as much as buying the base packs. What do I love like on the base packs or base moments? It's the first plays. So, the likes of LeBron, obviously that's quite expensive now, but it's the first plays of the players. And in season 1, most of the all the players that are in there will have a season, first play moment. Some players like Zion will have 3 or 4, but I tend to gravitate toward the first plays for obvious reasons. That'll be considered the rookie card for the digital age of that particular player. That's where my money's going. But so that, and obviously the metallic gold. I think that's the if you guys within cardboard space, the Prism Silver, that's my equivalent to the metallic gold. It's a little bit more desired.
What was the card that you unloaded that at the time was probably a good sell, and now you just cringe when you will click back and look at it?
I don't cringe about any of them, to be honest. I don't live in regret. So every single sale that I've made, so my account, my entire investment in this, it was $2,700. So 2700. And I've had to sell stuff along the way to be able to fund where it's got at the moment. So I've got 4 accounts. One of them is under my, Wade.ether, where you can see what that looks like. There's a couple other ones which I'm hiding some stuff in there too, which I'll surprise some people later down the track. But in terms of, regrets, 0. I sold the first LeBron Cosmic back in early June. So, that was 12 ETH at the time. So that was about $2,900 US. And it held the record for quite a long time. But, I needed to do that to be able to fund my way into, leveraging that portfolio to grow it as much as I could. And that was basically through randomness, through RNG is what we call it, buying enough packs of a certain drop to be able to beat the odds. So, I can take you back through some of the drops. I've sat out certain ones. Obviously in hindsight, everything's gone up, 40x. Everything looks good now, but 4 weeks ago there was drops there, like the lace 'em up, for example, that literally, most players were trading at like $80 to about $200, and the pack was 230. So, if you could call it a loss at that point in time, that was a loss. Whereas, going back in previous, the rookie debuts, there was some of the metallic gold drops, like the LeBron one, where if you had enough capital, you could buy, say, 10 to 20. You were essentially guaranteed one or two LeBrons metallic gold in those 10 to 20 packs. So that's what I mean by beating the randomness. You just had to have enough capital to be able to buy that randomness out, I suppose.
Wait, I know you're a financial advisor by trade. What do you say to the new investor who's coming to Top Shop and they think that, like all these things are so expensive now, I have no idea how I'm going to win? What do you say to that investor? What steps can they make to kind of build up a Top Shop portfolio, even in today's environment?
Assuming, a budget of, say, $1,000, look, it's not easy. I come from sort of two schools of thought. One is that what do I value? Owning a piece of history, really. You can't put a price on that. But in terms of pure rate of return, you have to go into season 2. You have to go where the liquidity is. All the new money's going to season 2, and you just got to play. You got to play that market a little bit to try and trade your way up to something better. It's as simple as that. The game's 10 times harder than it was 4 weeks ago. A lot of us won't land a pack for a while. So getting that edge by buying 10 to 20 packs and just hitting the jersey of the player or whatever, that's long gone for a lot of us. It's really now just trading your way out of situations. For me, I have a different objective because I have a large portfolio which I can just sell and buy something else. But someone coming new, that assuming they know the players and what's moving and so forth, you really have to go into that liquidity season 2 where you can move stuff around quite quickly, and just ideally move some of that money back in season 1 where it's affordable. Prices have softened a little bit over the last couple of days, and they might soften a little bit more until we get another uptick in terms of members. And that could come any day. That could be a simple tweet from someone or someone like a Gary V coming into the space. But to answer your question, season 2, trade your way through that, build some capital up, and then reinvest into some of the more investor stock, which is, in my opinion, season 1.
Have you seen Gary V talk about it at all? Because
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I've tweeted out so much stuff toward him going back to June, July, when I shouldn't have, because we weren't allowed to tweet stuff out or send anything out while it was closed beta.
Right.
I did, just trying to get his attention. I even think I'd said to him, "I'll give you some stuff if you just come join us," but nothing. Not a single response.
He's an interesting guy. There's three. It's like a 3-headed monster in that space. It's like Gary Vaynerchuk, Ty Lopez, and Grant Cardone. I think they're just 3 of the same different versions of each other.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's at the same time, like, if Gary was to get behind it, like, his little minions would certainly ramp it up. And that's kind of what I'm wondering. It's like, so if we went and basically 4x our user base in 3 weeks and you're saying like 40, maybe 50,000. So if we were to double, which isn't, it's just a double, but like that's, that would be.
It's a double from 50, but it's 50,000 more members. So it's right. That scale that. Yeah, I mean, look, it'd be phenomenal. Where the team, this platform can take that sort of growth, I don't think so at this point in time. Maybe tomorrow we can. So we don't know. I don't know what the advancements are in place, or will be there tomorrow. But if it happened today, I think we'd struggle, to be honest. And then we don't want to drive people away. You can see people already getting cranky that they can't. I myself am too, because I've got a limited window when I can do this sort of stuff, which is basically about now for about 2-3 hours. And then a lot of the times in the last week I've come on and the market's been closed. So it's a bit frustrating.
there was oh crap, I just kind of lost my thought. It's frustrating in that sense that like to the thought of like I've got like three buddies that I've told them about, and they've been trying to get packs. They've been looking at moments to buy, and thank God, like they all finally got a pack. One guy opened and had a Zion, the other had a LeBron, so now they're hooked. If they had opened and the best card was Zubac, like we probably would have lost them. But it's really kind of bad if all these new people keep showing up and the marketplace is down. I mean, getting packs aside, but just like they flooded me the first time there was one of those impromptu pack drops, and they're like, I'm getting this message, I'm getting this error message. I've seen twice a YouTube ad for Top Shot. I've not seen any since, and I think I heard that they have pulled all of their ads. I don't know if you can attest to that.
Yeah, look, I can. So that's the sort of stuff I can speak a little bit about, because I do have some of. And look, it's been obviously made available publicly, so I'm not sort of breaking any rules. We were planning to do some promotions via Facebook, because that channel has not been tapped at all. We not long ago put referees or moderators into that channel avenue of marketing, and really we were just about to do some marketing with one of the NBA players and all sort of stuff, and obviously we had to pull it all back because of what's happened. So there's no point. That's the sort of ammo you could use maybe now, or if the platform was usable, just to create a bit more demand. So yeah, they'd definitely have to pull back all the marketing and everything else, or most of it. So yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
In terms of longevity, where are we next year? Where are we next season? Do you see the prices flat? Do you see the prices maybe going up 10 or 15%? What does Top Shop, in your opinion, look like in the next NBA season?
So that's basically another 10 months away. Is that what you mean? The start of next season?
Yes.
It honestly does depend largely, I believe, on how usable this platform is. So assuming it's flawless from now onwards, we could be looking at completely different prices. In terms of season one, it could get ridiculously out of control, just because it's such a limited supply. And I refer to these things as museum pieces in my sort of little crappy podcast, whatever you want to call it. But that's exactly, I think, what it is. So, what's the price of history? That's my opinion. In terms of season two, we've already seen, price appreciation to where I thought, I don't know if it's sustained. It will be sustained. We just got to pull, the team is to pull those levers where you've got to print, obviously not enough. So that demand is always there. So it's hard to control when you've got a broken platform and you've got all these people coming in. So I don't even know how you test that out, to be honest with you. But then on the other side, you've got people complaining there's not enough packs. So what does it look like? I do see, in a perfect world, in terms of the platform, I see, much greater prices than we are currently experiencing on a lot of the moments. So, yeah.
When they raised it to 250K after those 200K sales, is there a reason that you can think that they would limit it to 250K? And kind of speak on pricing too, because it doesn't make sense sometimes. Like, I feel like as cool as like getting a jersey card is, like that's something that's made up, and then just like even the value on the serial numbers. And I fall into it too, just because like, let's say, so I was looking at like a Marvin Bagley III, and I'm just a fan of his, and I think that he's got potential if he could stay healthy, blah, blah, blah. But if his base, limited one is like $100, actually, it was like $30 last night. but it's like one of the bottom of the serial numbers. But if I can move and buy, so let's say it was like the 4,000 serial number was like $30, but if I could move up and get like for like $60, so double, but it's like 150.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think like that really makes a lot of difference, or is that just like this weird contrived thing that long term it's not really going to matter?
Look, I do believe it matters. I think we're actually talking about this on Twitter or going back and forth a little bit today in terms of at what point do the serial numbers matter. So was the question where if you went from 4,000 to say 2,000, does that really matter? Or Jason, was that your question?
I mean, like obviously if there's only like I just mean like if there's 4,000 moments,
Yeah,
and you've got number 4,000 versus
yeah,
having 2,000, is
yeah,
that really a big difference? Now, obviously, if there's only 4,000 printed versus only 2,000 printed,
yeah,
then
yeah,
that's a rarity thing. But I'm just meaning like within each moment,
Mm.
just the difference in serial numbers.
Well, let's say it's 3,999 because 4,000 actually does matter in terms of collector's eyes because it's that last moment. So there is a premium on last moment. So say it's 3,999 versus 2,000. You know, the more, again, being a flat 2,000, that again does command a little bit of a premium. I don't know if you guys notice these things, but it does in collector's eyes. So all these things do matter. Fortunately, unfortunately, that's just what the majority of people do see, I suppose. I'm talking about when you've got 1 million users, you only need, you know, a very, very, very small fraction of users that will, you know, appreciate those serial numbers to drive up that price. And across a large user base, even now, you can see it's clearly there. Even across the user base of, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 players, even less, that was evident, you know, because myself and, you know, a couple other guys, we were buying some of those, like some of the, you know, lucky Chinese numbers, 420, 1337, you know, the flat numbers, the year 2021. I mean, for me, that was a big one. I don't think I found one that was, you know, the serial number 2020 off the market. So I didn't try too hard, but I did really hunt very hard certain numbers, which were below the 100 serial. So I think, you know, if I could give anyone advice in terms of what to collect, you know, do the sets. And I've said that from day one, do the sets if you can. I said that for season one when the set was about $1,300. Now, you know, the floor price on that is about $70,000. And for season two, you know, if you could afford to, try to get below the 100 or 500, whatever your budget allows, because that's something, and eventually when, you know, it's all said and done years down the track, I think will carry quite a lot of value for the investors, you know, for the, if that's something you're chasing, the returns and so forth, rather than collecting. For me, I am chasing both. So that I am putting sort of sets together for the investor, the long-term investors as well. And, you know, something like a rare set, a base set, complete set, that's all mint under 100, yeah, it was desirable back in the day. And now it's a lot more desirable simply because the prices where they've gone. So, look, I do think that those things matter, and in years to come, they will continue to matter. I don't know if you can fight that tide. It's taking us in a certain direction, and in this digital space where you don't have PSA 10s and 9s, that's essentially our equivalent to those grades.
Right. The Tyler Herro thing is interesting to me. So like if we like he's what's kind of just the backstory and why is he like kind of the face of Top Shot? I mean I've heard that like Iguodala is invested. I think Dinwiddie.
Yeah, Javale.
So can you kind of just give something about Tyler and then of course and I might say the wrong one, but Bogdanovich, he's bought like his own moment.
Yeah.
That's kind of a
thing. Yep. So with Tyler Herro, I don't know the backstory to that, why he's involved. I'd say, you know, obviously when the team was putting this marketing plan together, now this is just a complete guess. I have no insight into this. I'd imagine this is, you know, during the NBA finals. He was in terms of likability and visibility and all that, he was up there. He was, as big as LeBron, especially with the younger crowd. So with the younger culture. So I'd say that's why he was picked. And also, obviously, budgets. You can't get a LeBron probably maybe for no amount, whereas a Tyler Hero. So you got to get a good bang for your marketing buck, I think, with him. I think that's probably what played in part of the decision to grab him at that point in time. And I'd say maybe the tie-in with the Miami Heat and the gentleman you mentioned before, I forgot his name, the NBA player.
Bogdanovich?
No, the NBA. The investor.
Iguodala?
Iguodala, yeah, thank you. I mean, like I said to you, I follow the Heat like every day. The name escaped me. Yeah, so he, there might be a tie-in there as well. And with Bogdanovich, I think he was chosen to target the international audience. So from that angle as well. Yeah.
Luka's a good international angle too.
Well, he is, but he might be a bit more expensive than Bogdanovich.
Well, but then Mark Cuban, puts out his blog and all of a sudden Maxi Keebler just goes through the roof just because he's mentioned. You saw what happened with Keebler?
I did, yeah.
Like for the guys, for you guys that are listening, literally, I feel like the card was like under like $200, and then that comes out, and then it went from like 400 to 800 in like an hour. And then it was like almost like then I saw someone was like, there's only like 5 left. It's like, so all of a sudden Maxi Keebler has like almost $1,000 card. And until Cuban mentioned him, I had no idea who that guy was. And there's a couple of those guys. Lennox here has mentioned on previous podcasts that he is all in on Keldon Johnson.
Okay.
And so you want to talk about your moves for Keldon Johnson that right now look like they're paying off in his country, right?
Yeah. So I loosely follow kind of the real world card market as well, and one of the buzz names has always been Keldon Johnson. So Jason and I were talking because I believe at the time it was only a 7,500 mint, but it did have that CC designation status. So I bought up every $1 Keldon Johnson. That's my claim to fame. All of them, everything that was $1 I bought. And then lo and behold, as of like yesterday, it's trading between like 20 and $25. But to your point, there's definitely, there was anyway, those pockets where you could get that 25 to 50x. Just a kind of personal question. We've got Tim Hardaway, Thunder Dan Marley, Jamal Mashburn, Alonzo Mourning. As a Heat guy, who's your all-time Ronnie Cycli? Who's your all-time favorite Heat player?
Oh, come on, Jason knows that. We actually discussed this before. Yeah. So how I became a Heat fan was through Alonzo Mourning coming from Charlotte over to Miami. So, and I was fortunate enough that I sort of transitioned from Big Zo to Dwayne Wade, which is how I got my alias Wades. That's where that came from.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. It's a nice tie in there. But back to your little nice little get there 25-30x. I mean that's my bread and butter. So that's exactly how I've built my little portfolio from actually nothing almost to where it's at now. So that's music to my ears, man. Well done.
Well, what he forgot to mention was like I think 2 days later he was not exactly ecstatic about his move because I believe the CC moved to 9,000, and he was like, "Oh, I'm an idiot! What a moron!"
Yeah, he's right.
And that's one of that actually leads us into like base set 2, especially with these CCs like and these numbers being at 12,000, and still being open. So Could we see like the LeBron, which is so crazy because that LeBron for base set 2 is probably his signature play of the year to date, at least. And it's something he's never done with a 3-point turnaround. And it hits on so many it's just a great moment. Like the
it is. Yeah, I seen it. Like, oh man, this will be a moment. So, and I know the team would be probably thinking the same thing. Like we've got to get this
But if it's
etched in
like goes to
history.
like 20,000,
Yeah,
and then it becomes limited, like
yeah.
how valuable can that really be if there's 20,000 of them?
Okay, so I'll take you back in time a little bit. I feel like I've been saying the same thing for the last 6, 7 months. You know, you've got to, in my opinion, you've just got to think ahead, a couple of years. So I was the one defending, the team and so forth. When people would come in, there was, a couple of hundred of us. There was a time literally in Discord when the little new player thing would light up on Discord every couple of hours, and we'd all run in and see who it is. You know how it says new player joined and so. Yeah, so it was very infrequent. But coming back to where I was going with this was people would complain, go, 4,000 or 2,500, like who's going to want this crap? It's like, there's $500 $1 moments. So I'm going, well, just you got to think years down the track. You got to think 6 months down the track. Same as now. You just got to think forward a little bit. So for me, I haven't ventured into season 2 in any great deal yet, other than buying a few John Walls and LaMelo Ball. But what I'm doing is basically what Lennox did or will be doing is looking for those CC moments which I can pick up relatively cheap, and just playing that sort of that scarcity game and playing that bit of Russian roulette. I don't think it's Russian roulette at all, because where can a dollar moment go? Really, it can go say at $1. So you're going to get a lot of premium alpha there if you can hold out long enough. So if you don't, as long as you don't type a lot of capital and that sort of stuff, I think it'll pay off. And you can always free up sort of your last round CCs that turn into limited editions, and so just recycle that money that way. So 20,000 will be nothing, Jason, in 3 years' time.
So there's a guy we went on that Deck the Hoops and we pulled a LeBron number 12 for the Deck the Hoops, and
wow, yeah.
Well, we don't like to look back either, like after we sell, but we sold it for almost 8, and
it's a good sale.
Well, and now the floor for the LeBron Deck the Hoops is 30, and
which is only 4x,
yeah,
3 points something. So what did you pick up?
So we invested in number 216 LeBron, the Kobe tribute dunk.
Okay.
And we got that for 2, and now it's at about 8 now.
Yeah.
But what I've been noticing, because obviously, like, we're looking at what's going on with that one, and I believe I want to say Andy. I just know him as Andy, but he's like a pretty big guy, and he bought the number 1 for like 70,000.
Yeah.
And then there's this other guy named Chet Baker, and he, like, if you look now, like, he's literally bought like 10 of them for like anywhere between 8 and 12K.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm kind of looking at that, and me and Lennox have discussed this, and we don't, unfortunately, I just don't have 120K, that I could just do that. But is that like kind of a strategy to just kind of move the floor and make scarcity? Is that kind of what that strategy is, or is that just like, this is a great moment and it's going to be worth it, and I'm just like sucking up, like he sees so much value? Like, what do you think goes into that thought process?
Oh, it's a great question. Look, to say there's no market manipulation going on, it would be a silly thing to say. I think there is probably some going on, to be honest with you. When you've got such a scarce space that's so valued in terms of the actual dollar value, I think there's games being played at certain times. I mean, I know there is. So, yeah, you just got to be careful with some of those things. Just don't over leverage and buy sort of what you can afford. I'm not saying that either. I know Andy. I call him Doc. I think it's Dr. Applesauce or whatever his Discord name is. So again, he goes way back as well. So he's legitimate, and I'm sure they all are. But I think at that top end level where you can buy a couple and trade a couple and to set the price. I think some of that probably does go on. what goes into the thought process of a genuine buyer? It's hard to know. Like, you said yourself, you love LeBron. Um, you know, if I, as a Kobe fan, have, a decent amount of capital to invest, or on behalf of a bunch of partners, and we're seeing a little bit of that going on, where a group of people get together and buy out a certain player, and that's an investment strategy. I think we need that. It's a sign that people are taking this seriously as an investment, a genuine investment. So, the next evolution of that is, I can't say it on your show because it's a rude word, but it's that, FU money. When that comes in, that's a sort of, member that will be buying out, some of the high end stuff for 7 figures. So that, doesn't care really what it costs. Some of those die-hard Kobe fans that just want a piece of that number 24, whatever it is. So that's not to say that, Chad is not that guy, but he's just got in early.
How does Top Shot fail?
How does it fail? It's tough now. I mean, it's not tough, but obviously the licensing agreement that it has with the NBA, means a lot. If that was not to renew, and I'm not sure what the agreement is exactly, say if it doesn't get renewed 2 years from now, we still have these moments on the blockchain. At some point in time, you'll be able to, put these in your wallet, so it'll be decentralized and all that sort of stuff. So, does it make those moments more valuable, given there's only 3 seasons of this product, potentially? So, how does it fail? I mean, it's tough. It's really tough for it to fail now, as long as they get the platform right and to be able to scale with this demand. I don't know. Like, I've thought about this before, and I'm thinking, like, if it gets so, if it gets to a point where it's transacting so much volume, does the government start asking questions? Is there any issues there from the, I don't know, who you guys got over there that manages that sort of stuff? That's potentially, it might stop for a little bit. Look, this is just me guessing, to be honest with you. So I've had to ask that question myself, because I do have a sizable portfolio that I have to think about, why, let that go into the ether, so to speak, when I can take some of that money back. And how do you do it? What are the risks? What are the downsides? So I have thought about that too, and I haven't been able to come up with a good reason, other than maybe just some sort of a, what do they call it? An event where you can't really control. It's out of your control type of thing. So.
Well, so I was a professional poker player for about 7-8 years, and right kind of smack dab in the middle of my poker career, we had a thing called Black Friday here in America for poker players, and that's where the U.S. government came in and pulled the plug on Full Tilt and Poker Stars, all online.
I do remember that, Jason. I used to play a little bit, just like really, really basic stuff, dollar tables and all that sort of thing. I remember that like it was yesterday. They just got all pulled and shut down overnight.
So with the NBA licensing, I think that's my personal biggest fear, is that I just log on to Top Shot and there's the big, seal from America saying it's been seized. I don't think that's we have to worry about that. But just to give you an idea of back then, so I wasn't heavily invested online at the time. I pulled out. I was pretty good about keeping a small bankroll on there, but there was a guy that literally the night before. And he was an up-and-coming professional, and he made his first big score and won the Sunday Million, I believe. And so he had $1 million in his bank account, and then he wakes up the next day, and he can't get it.
Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, imagine that feeling. You won something, and then you just take it away the next day from you. It's rare.
I mean, but that was, so that I think those are some of the hurdles, the first hurdle, especially for new users, is why would I pay $100,000 for a video I can watch on YouTube? And then,
of course.
And if I have to explain that, to one more person, and I'm sure as a moderator, you've had to deal with that.
Look, that one not so much. I mean, I
Once
do.
they're on, yeah.
Yeah. Once they're on there, they're on there. I just have to sort of tell them to not swear. That's my job. Or that used to be my job. I don't do that as much anymore. I sort of venture out into Twitter a little bit, and I actually do what you just said. I try to explain to the likes of Darren and some of those guys that just couldn't see the long-term vision there, what this thing could become. So, and I think we've done a reasonable job. I think we've brought in a lot of people from various sectors, and it's just again, like I put out a call for the private Discord, and I've had over 300 DMs just asking to come in. And the level of the quality of some of the submissions has been incredible. Hopefully you guys can make it in. You'll be able to see. It's quite filtered, and that's on purpose, just because I want that sort of community. So yeah, like when you see that and some of the stuff that I've seen behind the scenes, it's for me, it's hard to see it fail where it's got to now, other than some form of government intervention or some sort of god-like event or something like that. So, or whatever you call those things. So explaining that, what it is, it's a YouTube link. I mean, I have a bit of fun with that. It's not an easy one to explain. I've had to do it a couple of times now, but the easiest one is it's a digital basketball card. I sort of picture myself sitting down 8 years from now and going, oh, I'm gonna go back in time and look at that Luka 3 that really put him on the map. I mean, how often can you say that about a basketball card?
Right.
To actually watch that particular moment.
So recently, the Jordan Fleer rookie. I don't know like what all that stuff. A PS10 or like the best.
Jordan. PS10, yeah.
And it didn't even sell for $1 million. Now I say that like, oh, it didn't sell for $1 million, but but what's interesting is that seems to be like the holy grail of basketball cards, except maybe like a George Mikan from way back when, like. But there's LeBrons that have sold for like millions. I think how far do you think it is before there's $1 million sale on Top Shot? Because even like them kind of lifting the ceiling to 250, I think that was kind of like, I wonder why they didn't go with like $500,000.
Alan explained that. I can't remember the exact reasoning, but it had something to do with potentially the financial side of things and fraud protection, all that sort of stuff. And
right.
So honestly, I think it's something along those lines anyway. I think part of it's also testing the market and just letting things happen a bit more naturally, rather than just lifting it to $1 million and just seeing moments that sit there for a long period of time. I think you got to progressively increase the prices, so sort of like artificially let the next guy have a bit of profit, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So is it official that if and when they release a Kobe or a Jordan, that the site will just like blow up? It'll just. I
think that might be one of those godlike events that I mentioned before. It'll just melt everything. Jordan, I don't know if that's possible because he's got his own licensing, and that might be very difficult. But I mean, from what the guys Dapper says, the NBA is very happy with so far what's happened. So, I don't see them pulling the plug or anything even remotely like that. I think they're very happy with where things are going, and the growth alone. I mean, I said quite early on that this will and I see it day to day that a lot of users come in that are not basketball fans. They're NFT guys, they're crypto guys, they're traders, and they become hooked on this NBA side of things because they need that edge. They need to understand who the player is, and they sort of fall in love with that, the NBA product as well at the same time.
I wonder if they can get around the Jordan thing, so one of the things about the LeBron Deck the Hoops that, there's little things like you were just saying about like having the 2020 serial number or the last serial number or like flat numbers and stuff. So like what we missed for the Deck the Hoops and didn't give any credence to was that Luka Doncic was in that shot. Like he's hitting the 3 on Christmas over Luka. And so that little element can add more value. So I wonder, like, let's say they did a run it back and put Detlef Shrimp, but Michael Jordan was guarding Detlef Shrimp. Does like that card like just go up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, that would be the closest we may ever potentially be to having Jordan in a moment. So that would absolutely blow up. Yeah, guaranteed.
Well, NBA 2K was able to figure out the Jordan problem, so surely there's probably a price at which he becomes interested, I would imagine. I think
Exactly like Lennox. Yeah, money talks, as you know.
I think earlier you guys are referencing some kind of black swan event that would eventually, be a detriment to NBA Top Shot.
Yeah.
Personally, in the short-term basis, I know you mentioned it before, but I think they got to get the scalability right. They got to get the marketplace up. A user needs to be able to access their site on demand when they want to use that. That to me right now is the biggest concern here.
Yeah.
How do you have a product that you can't use? I know we're in beta and I know that's forgivable, but in order to take the next steps that I think they need to be successful, we definitely have to figure out just being online and being able to buy stuff,
Yeah, look, I obviously 100% agree with you. And like I mentioned, shared my frustration as well. I've got a limited window between sort of, 10 p.m. and some god awful hour in the morning, like Jason, to get on here and participate. So it's frustrating for me. Like I haven't been able to do it for quite a while now. So we need that aspect. And I think one of the other podcasts I was on, they asked me, where do you see this market or this thing developing? And it's got to be multifunctional in terms of it's got to cater to the collector and that are happy to just come on there and browse and buy, and also more probably just as equally important to the traders because we need that liquidity. And then imagine this whole marketplace being open 24/7, being able to trade essentially like a share market with all the bells and whistles, the charts, everything. That's where I want it to go, because that's the liquidity we need for the platform to really have a long run at this thing.
I'm assuming you're going to grab that the Cool Cats selection to get the Luka. Is that a done deal now for you?
Yeah, Lennox. Yeah, I've already got that, so it's already in the bag.
What's the over under on the Luka's minted for you?
Well, I was asked that too. I said about 1,700, but I think it's already way past that.
What? No.
Yeah, I think it's in the 2,000s now. So look, on that too, I think that will, if you can pick up, even if you've got a smaller budget where you can only pick up a few moments that make up the 5 now, there will be that master challenge where there'll be, I don't know how many more, maybe 4 releases of these cool cats. So Luka being the first reward. So is that 5 plus Luka's 6 from memory?
Yes. Yes.
So there'll be potentially 3 more releases, and then there will be a master reward for holding all those moments. So even if you can pick up the set, ideally it'll be good because that'll hold long-term value at least until the reward's given out. We had that instance only once before. It was a set called Got Game where you collected, I think it was the same amount, 5 players plus you got a reward. And what happened was, we didn't know what that master reward was, and it turned out to be a rookie debut, Matisse Thybulle. So, we had members collecting multiple sets thinking it was going to be some, fantastic reward. And the reward wasn't too bad because the set was a very common set. It was $9 a pack or 14. So, but what happened was through the releases, the prices got higher and higher because people wanted to collect, the master reward. So I think the same will happen here. And I'm banking on personally that the master reward will be quite enticing to have. So
no Cody Zeller.
Don't mention Cody Zeller. That's like the Top Shot god. I mean, I don't know if you know the history behind that, but
I don't get it. I mean, yeah. Can you please enlighten us on why? I mean, I know he was a reward, but
yeah, no, it goes back in time. Again, this is just our little games we used to play in the Discord of about 100 people. So I am partly responsible for that. It goes back to, I don't know, maybe August. So I just don't know. So what happened was we saw on the marketplace, a very broken marketplace, a couple of transactions come through, and there was a Zeller, I think Hollow purchases, maybe a couple of $100. And we're just sort of talking the marketplace chat. back then you literally had like 3 messages every half an hour, so everyone could see everything. And I made a joke. I said Cody Zeller's buying his own stuff again, and then sort of and that whole legend developed basically out of a couple of those comments. So myself and Spruce Springsteen, or whatever his alias is, sort of just took that and just sort of carried it onwards, and now we sort of took the member Sonic. He took it another step further, and he's collecting 1,000 of his base moments.
Mm-hmm.
With the hope that once we get to 1,000, it'll open up some magical third world and whatever, and Cody will appear out of and greet us with his legendary status. So this is what we used to get up to, guys. Because we were so boring, we had nothing else to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Cody Zeller. Oh, I mean, it's like Taco Fall.
It's a meme. It's a meme, basically.
Yeah. But it's like a guy like Taco Fall, and like his is like the guys. I feel bad for him, because if he had been in a draft in the 90s, he would have been a top 5 pick, like guaranteed. But in this day, like he'll probably be out of the league in like less than 5 years. I was listening to Dr. J on JJ Redick's podcast, and he was talking about like just old players and how they're all considered legends. He's like, they ain't legends. They just had a cup of coffee in the league and they were out. But because they're old, they're like legends. And there's, that's the one thing about like, especially betting on some of these rookies, is some of them are, like Obi Toppin is not doing so great right now in New York, and quickly is like crushing it. It's almost kind of it feels a lot like your Miami Heat boys, where Kendrick Nunn was the all rookie and then couldn't even get on the court, and Tyler Herro was the next anointed one.
Man, that was interesting too. Like in terms of pricing of their own moments, it's just Tyler Herro stuff. Just obviously part of that was also his him becoming an ambassador to the game, and so that carried some value as well. But that's the risk, going back a while. You guys might have seen a member called Pranked. He purchased Zion rookie debut #1, so that was his jersey, and #1 mint as well. So he paid $10,000, and this goes back a long time when nothing in terms of pricing could even come close to that. So right now, that's the moment that's on Heritage Auctions. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but that's the one that's being auctioned off in the real world on Heritage. So I think it's got about 27 days left. And, that's quite a pivotal moment for a lot of us, because if that succeeds, and, success in that means, selling for over $100,000. So because it probably would sell in the platform for $100,000 plus. We just need to see what it does outside. So we're keeping a close eye on that. Hopefully that goes for big money. And I've talked to those guys a little bit too. So Heritage Auction guys, and they are interested in this space. We'll see how that goes as well. Interesting times.
So we are obviously Top Shot NFT. We've heard rumblings, about what's the next thing. The rumors we hear are UFC, and then I think Dr. Seuss is pretty well established that that's going to be coming as well. What do you see with those two? And like how, like is Dr. Seuss going to be, the next Pokemon?
Look, it potentially could be. This space is quite the NFT space, and the crowds that play in this space, especially some of the deeper pockets. It's quite interesting because, they'll drop $300,000 on nothing to the ordinary citizen. It's just a little picture, So, but if you've been in this space, you sort of tend to start to get it after a while why these things carry value, and as an investment grade, type of stock, why that might be worth $300,000. Whether Dr. Seuss has that appeal, I believe it does. It's a global brand. Dapper's proved that they can, execute to an extent on these sort of things. Will it carry the same appeal as an NBA? No, it won't. So it'd be more the collective, that will come into that, and but I think it'll do quite well. UFC, on the other hand, I think will also blow up eventually when that comes out, and I have no idea when any of that's going to come out. I've asked, and they've said to me, "Mind your own business," in a nice way, which is good. That's exactly what they should say. They're like, no one should know any of that sort of stuff because financially, it's or whether they have a beta period. I'm thinking hopefully not, and they'll just release it into some sort of like open beta where they have thousands of people participating. Because to invite 70 people and give them that advantage again, I think it's maybe a bit too much.
It's funny. I was talking to Jason. I was in a local mall here in Chicago, and I'm walking around, and lo and behold, I walk up to an actual Dr. Seuss store. In this particular store, all they did was that they sold high-end Dr. Seuss prints, and these prints were selling for at a minimum $1,000 all the way up to like 50 grand just for an art print. So it's the thing. So I had no idea that Dr. Seuss had a
Neither
store.
did I. Yeah.
And it's only like if there's only art in the store, that's it. And it's only like, these limited prints. So I'm really excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah, actually, now you mention it, because I had no idea. You just jogged my memory, because another member, probably going about 6 months ago, he actually showed me some of his personal collection, just pictures of prints and so forth, and he said to me that these things go for big money. So, and he was quite excited. So yeah, I just remembered that as well. So having that with that thought in mind, why wouldn't this space do just as well?
I got Cat in the Hat in the same pack. It's the equivalent of
same pack as a LeBron.
I think the UFC. So like I was trying to think about this myself, and like obviously like you've got football and baseball, but like soccer, and I've heard that there is like kind of a version of soccer out there, but because soccer has so many different leagues, I feel like licensing would be difficult for that. But the UFC is interesting, and Dana White for sure would probably be behind it. But that would be so much more global. And as far as I think the dunk is the most exciting play in sports. Like take your home runs, take your touchdowns. Like a really badass dunk is just it.
Yeah.
But
I agree. Yeah, completely.
There's so many but let's be honest, like a knockout, like especially like the way the UFC's knocked out, like there's that one image from an early UFC where the guy runs off the cage and kicks someone in the face. Like that moment would be like crazy good in the prime for this.
Yeah, exactly right. No, you just took the words out of my mouth. It lends itself to this product. It's that capturing that moment in time, and that essentially that knockout, that final blow. So I'm not an UFC guy at all. I don't think I've really watched many fights, but I'm very excited by that product. So I've got a bit of studying to do before that comes out as well.
I'm not a big fan of it either. I'm a Joe Rogan fan, and I listen to all his podcasts. So, as a byproduct, like listening to fighters, and I have respect, but I've yet to purchase a pay-per-view for UFC. So
yeah, I'm the same. On the soccer, Jason, just I think in terms of licensing, the game you mentioned, or the collective, or the product is so rare, and I think they've got some licensing with some of the sort of second and third tier leagues. I don't believe they've got the Premier League. I think that's something that, and it's a different product to what Dapper would offer as well. So if they could pick up the Premier League licensing, that would be just as big as, if not bigger than the NBA.
Yeah, that's definitely global. I don't know. I mean, we're Americans, so like I don't understand like how all of that works. Like where they play different leagues, like and it's interesting too because like with soccer, I mean. I know enough to say that like Ronaldo and Messi are the two best, I guess, in the world. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that. I'm sure people would.
But that's kind of the fun thing about like basketball is like typically there's no argument. Like, it's been Jordan, Kobe and LeBron, and granted, there's like, obviously like MVP level players and stuff, but like there's generational headliners. And then of course, like I still think Shaq should be in there as well. Just there's never going to be another Shaq. But boy, would I keep that's what I really want. I want to see those throwback moments, like Shaq when he was in Jersey and pulled down the whole goal. Even Phoenix, like those moments, like were so amazing.
So,
that's what you can't get on a traditional card,
Yeah. So I'll throw one back at you guys. What's the one moment you guys would like to see going back in time?
I'll let you go first, Jason.
Well, I think I think the Shaq dunk in Jersey was way better than the one in Phoenix. Like, like I think visually that would be the coolest. My favorite player of all time is Charles Barkley, and he's got a Sixers dunk where he just came and just exploded like with a big two-hand behind the back. So personally, I would like to see that. Or my favorite dunk of all time was Gary Payton to Sean Kemp, and he just catches it and his momentum just swings and his whole body like swings around the rim. Sean Kemp's just is.
Oh man,
he's perfect for that. Like I think he's what he was the original kind of Zion. He was the '90s version of Zion before they all started lifting the weights and getting big.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine a set where it was like Dominique, Clyde Drexler, all those sort of guys. That would be something.
It was funny too because like last night, LeBron was jawing at like a fan, and so I think someone tweeted out something like, "When is this going to become a moment?" Like that's interesting too, right? Like because Bronny is like if Bronny and LeBron like are in the same game. Like that's a cool moment that can come about, a Space Jam moment, but if I have to pick just from the game, like, again, like I just love dunks. So maybe even Vince Carter when, at the dunk contest, when he does, it's over. Like such a complete moment.
There's just so many, great ones. It's impossible to choose almost. What about you, Lennox? What would be your one?
The one that comes to mind, and I know Jordan's kind of prohibited, but that 3-point line, well, the free throw line dunk when his legs are kind of dangling in the air and he's hanging up there and he's gliding. To me, that's got to be one of the most iconic moments in NBA history. Also, I love the moment where Dr. J kind of scoops the ball. He takes those 2 steps and he makes that in rhythm. Like that's one of the most graceful plays I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was a nice one. That's gone back in time, definitely.
Yeah, I could. Well, my favorite, so your favorite player was Alonzo, but what's your favorite like legendary player? Like mine was always George Gervin, and because the finger roll and like he's the guy that like I didn't get to grow up seeing.
Yeah.
So when I went back and looked and I loved the ABA. Like, that actually was like the type of league that was fun to me, as opposed to like, I think the NBA back then was probably pretty boring, but the ABA days, like that would be a really cool set. Also, Connie Hawkins, David Thompson, Dr. J with the Nets, with the big froze and everything. Like that's a real throwback series,
Yeah, man, that would be exciting. For me, look, I didn't really follow the NBA back then just because where we were originally, like I was born overseas and migrated to Australia, we didn't have access to any of the NBA. So I didn't really follow it. All I sort of know is just seeing footage now or recently on YouTube and things like that. But Jordan's got to be up. Obviously, he is the GOAT. Magic Johnson's probably the other one. I just appreciate his game. It's so multi-dimensional. I think that's one of the players that could play in any era, So yeah.
Again, like we started this podcast because once this kind of started, we talk every day. Me and Lenny go back, 20 years, and first met like on the basketball court, and you know, there's just such a like we just love talking hoop, anyways.
Yeah.
But we're also very entrepreneurial. Like like I said, like I used to be a professional poker player. I was also before that I was a sportscaster. I've never actually had like what I would qualify as like a real job. Certainly
nine to five.
Yeah, like I've never had to wear. Well, when I was a sportscaster, I had to wear a shirt and tie and a jacket, but I didn't have to wear the pants because the camera could see the pants. But I've never had to do that, and so we're constantly like throwing ideas. But it was like, I just said to him, I was like, dude, we're talking about this all the time right now, like, and we just instantly kind of knew this wasn't something that we were gonna like buy a couple packs and walk away from. And it's like, well, why don't we just start recording it? And then like to get to talk to guys like you and Alan, and we've got a plethora of, hopefully some other guys coming on, cause as cool as like NFTs and the cards are too, it's like, we get to talk hoop as well. And some of those moments, like you said, that it's very nostalgic and cool. I feel like we're at like the cafeteria table,
It's exactly 24/7. So, I mean, for me, again, I come back to that point where it's this perfect marriage of the NBA. So obviously I come from the finance end. I've been trading or / investing into stuff my whole life. So I'm 39 now. I've been in the market for 20 plus years. So it's this perfect marriage of everything, really, for me. Like you said, Jason, you get to talk NBA and investing, and just it's all those different dynamics roll into one, and you could essentially get rewarded by watching NBA games, by sharing, or leveraging off your knowledge research, which has never been possible before. Not to the extent that it is now with the liquidity and all that sort of stuff.
And I'll say something that might like get me pinged in the comments, but like when we opened the show up and we were discussing about the lottery and the fairness of getting packs and everything, like I'm very competitive, right? So if I'm going to spend all my effort like scouring the marketplace and doing like watching my phone and refreshing to see when pack drops are and everything, like I want to be rewarded. I don't like participation ribbon society, so when there's people that are complaining, and I get it too, because I've been shut out and couldn't get anything to process, and then it sold out, and that's okay. I didn't get participation medals when I was a kid. Like someone got first place and everyone else got orange slices. And so like I like that element. Although I do understand, like, there is still like a level of fairness that needs to be there, so that like, it's not always the same people that have just solved the game. But I'm getting at.
Yeah, I do. And look, I mean, from Dapper's viewpoint, they've got to try and cater to everyone. We've all three of us have grown in the same era, so we sort of appreciate probably more the hardened path, I suppose, like a better term. Like if you have a bad experience, man, these days, all it takes is like a couple of tweets and the shit blows up, and it's, you've cost yourself a serious amount of money. So as a product provider, they've got to do everything they can to appease as many as they can.
It's definitely a tough line, right? So Jason will tell you, I'm actually 6'9". I played Division.
You're lucky. One of the chosen ones, Lennox.
I played Division I basketball, so I know what it's like. And I've actually played against some of the guys that we're talking about in open gyms and things of that nature. But now all growing up, I'm a risk analyst, so I'm unlike Jason, I'm the guy that's putting on the shirt and tie and the shoes and everything, going to work every day. But
and pants, hopefully.
I love the ability that you have here to leverage, what do I think about this game? What are my thoughts? And I can actually bet on my process, and I can potentially be rewarded for it. I think the market is inefficient. Therefore, I'm going to put my funds in this particular stock, if you will, and we're going to see what happens, and we'll give it 30 days, and we're going to see how that plays out. So from that standpoint, NBA Top Shop is fascinating.
It is, man. Like, and that's exactly where I've come from. Obviously, my day job is analyzing risk for people and making sure they get from A to B in a relatively safe manner. The risk reward relationship in this, from the get go for me was like, well, where could this go? Really, I can go from $1 to zero, and okay, you've lost a couple $1,000, but it can go from $1 to an incredible amount of money. And to an extent, that's how it's played out. Season 2 is no different. It's like you just proved yourself. There's plenty of bargains there as long as you sort of know what you're doing, do a bit of research, and it's not that hard to capture that value because the driver will always be the scarcity. And if you believe in the product, which I refer to as that social proof, where you've got a player that comes into Discord and they talk about it and they fall in love with it, just like you guys did, for various reasons. So that constantly keeps getting proven to me. And that's all I sort of need to be able to not sleep at night, but I mean, to just back the product financially and to leave, for me, an incredible amount of money still in there. I could probably pack my bags tomorrow and get a good amount of money for what I've got. But I see longevity there, and then I still want to be around the team and you guys and the Discord and the community, and this is just literally the start of it. So very exciting times.
And I can't let it go by. First of all, I'm a solid 6'2", 6'3".
You're not 6'2" or 6'3".
And I still play in men's leagues here in the toughest men's league area, Los Angeles, California.
Yeah.
I could have played college ball on the Division II level, but my growth spurt was a little late. So, and I played against Julius Peppers in high school, #1 NFL draft pick and All-American basketball player. So we've covered the whole spectrum. Did you play ball, Wade?
Yeah, I still do. I play two nights a week, so I play Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I played at a reasonable level. Nothing like you guys, no, college. I mean, here it's not at that level. There is no real college essentially. It's just you play a bit in high school, and then you either go, you play sort of that regional type of league, or you go pro. And pro at our level is the NBL, which is you're better off going to a 9 to 5. Because the money just does not make sense. I mean, I've seen, I've grown up, I'm nearly 40, like I said, so I've grown up with a lot of the guys that play, and some of them, play professionally, and they end up playing professionally, and they come out, they've got, no career path, and they've literally earned a fraction of what they could have earned just going to a 9 to 5. So very different ball game here compared to the States from that point of view.
Who's kind of like a guy that is you don't have to give away our secrets, but like maybe a couple players that are probably low on the radar that are kind of like a risky bet for you, but because like right now, like it's pretty easy to buy up like LaMelo, Halliburton, but is there like a couple rookies or even like a couple 2 or 3 year players that you think are just like like for Linux, it's Keldon Johnson?
Yeah. To be honest, Jason, I can't really answer that because I haven't. Markets shut me out for the last couple of days, and you guys see, if you're not in there for a couple of days, then you log back in and the price is just different. Right. So it's really hard to answer that. I've just been more investing in season 1, and just adding to that pile. So what I've been doing is just selling, say, one rare or legendary moment and just trying to pick up some base. I'll be able to probably answer that question in maybe a week time. That will only exist for me anyway. That risk reward sort of play in season 2 at the moment, and probably not similar to what Lennox has done already, is just looking at some of those guys where you put them, you put 20 players on a spreadsheet or whatever on the marketplace and go, well, that one doesn't make sense. And that's literally what I've done. And I don't know if you guys get caught in the videos. I do everything live. Like I've just spent a couple $1,000s just buying stuff live and going literally just sort from top to bottom and go, well, that doesn't make sense. That shouldn't be there. Like Victor Oladipo was trading at like, metallic gold for $19 and everything else was trading, comparably 2-3 times that. So now, he's caught up, but even his base was trading for about $1, maximum $2. So guys like that just don't make sense to me. And he got traded and then he had an excellent first game and sort of blew up a little bit. That's what I do. That's how I analyze it. But I've got that inherent knowledge of the NBA. So I know who Victor Oladipo is. I know what he's capable of. There is a risk there because he's come off injury and so forth. I don't know the current rookie crop that well. But ultimately, that's probably your biggest leverage play in the rookie section. Probably what Lennox did was that CC and then going from CC to limited edition and hoping you capture that. And it sort of take you up. That along with the member base growing, and you get your 10 to 15x from that. That's what
I also think there's value in pursuing a lot of these rookie cards, especially people we never heard of who don't play. If you believe in the viability of NBA Top Shop, as a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year play, and you just grab some of these second round guys who are on the end of benches and they become something, I think there's a lot of value there as well.
There is, and look, that's something I've actually. Are you guys familiar with StarStock, the platform?
Absolutely,
StarStock.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's exactly what I've done, Lennox. In the off season, I've just bought up a whole bunch of stuff. So that's for me again. Sort of looking at NBA Top Shot, that was the closest thing I had to this digital trading aspect of it. So what I did was literally I did not touch a single piece of cardboard product. I, order cards from Burbank and all those big shops. Order enough that you get free postage, and they just literally send it directly to StarStock and get them to index it. You know how it works.
Absolutely.
And I'd pick it up for $1, even under $1, 40 cents, 50 cents a card. And then when, just the market is so inefficient in the off season now, I didn't invest a lot of money, maybe $300. I've got, I took out maybe $1,000 out of that 300 investment, and I've still got majority of the cards left because the 40-cent card turned into a $10 sale, $15 sale. As you probably know, you've done that before, and I haven't had to touch a single thing. So those are, big plays for me. The off-season players, like you said, the injured players, they're a bit riskier, but if you can get them low enough, like the Victor Oladipo and guys like that have that pedigree that will come back eventually. If they don't come back, you haven't risked a lot of money as well. So, but definitely the rookies, that's the big draw card. How many, you guys go back in history, how many rookies that were drafted in the second round that are studs now? A lot.
And how many had a cup of coffee too in the league?
Especially your taller guys.
Absolutely.
It takes the taller guys longer to develop. You look at your Christian Woods, you look at Jokic, you look at, the taller the guy, the longer it takes. So it takes 4 or 5 years to get the seasoning, to understand the pace, and to get your conditioning and that kind of thing up.
Yeah, but to the point, exactly right. To the point Jason just made, how many, have a cup of coffee and leave the league. Look, that's true as well. But if you look at take Top Shot as an example, if you're buying it for $1, you can't go less than $1. So if you try to stick to that philosophy, I suppose, the upside is there to capture, whereas the downside is limited. It might take a while to sell. Before you guys came around in Discord, we did a lot of trades in Discord where, I'd pick up a whole bag of moments for like 50 cents, 70 cents on average. So I'd give someone $70 for 100 moments. Obviously, subscribing to the theory that this is going to blow up. So look, you should see what I got in one of them. Like it was that 9 RJ Barretts and so stuff like that. So you can do that if you miss on one of the guys we talked about, a rookie. You can just package it up and just flick it off for under $1 or something. Someone will always buy those sort of things.
Right. I was curious because LaMelo Ball played in Australia, and we really didn't. Every now and again, we'd see a highlight of him. what were you ever able to go see him play? And was that even a big thing in Australia, him playing over there?
It was huge. It was huge down here. So obviously, he's got a big following
Right.
everywhere he goes. He's a personality in the family, and so it was a big deal down here. I didn't get a chance to go see him play because it was just sold out everywhere you went. So you had to plan, months and months in advance to get tickets. I just didn't get a chance to go see him play, but he was quite a big deal, and we are pretty proud of the fact that he played down here and he got drafted where he got drafted, and he's having a relatively successful start to his career. So I think it's a good avenue for guys coming out of college as well. It's a legitimately men's league. It's not as good as Europe, but it's going to get there.
Well, you got to feel bad for, was it Lemangelo Ball? Like your two brothers were top three.
Lemangelo, yeah.
You can't even get in the G League, basically.
Oh, I mean, they've done well though. I mean,
yeah,
the family, it's incredible.
So
success.
That's cool. I was always curious about with LaMelo, that's what's kind of interesting now, especially as players enter the league. Certainly like Zion has more followers than probably 95% of professional basketball players, and that might even be a low number, so.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's the marketing. It's who doesn't want a Zion play or moment or jersey. It's just everything he does is just incredible. Obviously, there's a bit of risk in the way he plays. It's just potential for injury, but same time, the rewards there too. So all has been. I mean, buying Zion now, obviously there's quite a bit of risk there. If he does get injured, it's a long way down.
Yeah.
Whereas upside is somewhat limited given the pricing where it's at.
Cool, brother. Well, I think you probably need to get some rest, and I probably should go to bed at 5:30 here after an all-nighter. And Linux, the beauty of technology, we're both getting ready to go to bed, and Linux is going to work. So, Linux, do you have anything else?
No, Wade, I really appreciate your insight, and I'll definitely look into. I wrote some notes here. These lucky Chinese numbers that I didn't even think about that. So something to keep in mind. I guess even in base 2 moments, and go Heat. But I appreciate your time, and thanks again.
No problem. I really appreciate you guys, having me on, and come around to the Discord and we can share some insights there and talk about the lucky numbers as well.
Cool. Well, that's going to do it for Top Shot NFT. We'll be having another episode later this week, hopefully kind of seeing what happens in the landscape as things develop. We're here. Leave us a comment, with any questions you have. We'll be happy to, ask one of our guests or answer them on future podcasts. Obviously, hit the subscribe button so that you can stay up to date. This is a landscape that is ever changing, day to day, hour to hour, and we're here to certainly help you and educate you on Top Shot. By no means are we giving advice, certainly no financial advice. This is just guys that love basketball and Top Shot, and we thank you for joining us. For Linux, for Wade's, I'm Jason. We'll catch you next time.
See you guys.